Hello, welcome to the I'm Excited podcast. I am your host, David Hicks. Now, this is a word of warning to those of you who normally listen to me or watch my videos. It's normally something very serious. It's God or Jesus oriented, something like that. But I do dabble in comedy. And so today's podcast is just pretty much silliness. You may wonder why I do this. I love humor. I love comedy. It's a gift from God. You know, the qualities that we have, whether it's the ability to cry from one extreme to another, sadness, anger, then joy and peace and happiness, all the emotions that we have, you see them in God. You see them in Jesus. And being created in His image, the very qualities that God has, we have as well. And so laughter is a gift from God. I believe God at times, God does laugh. The Bible actually talks about Him laughing. And so it is a gift, and I do like to use it. I do like to share it. And so that's what I wanted to do today. In fact, my wife, she knows how important comedy is to me. And, as much as she prays for me, which is, in all honesty, in all seriousness, more than I pray for myself, and she also likes to pray about my comedy. God, most men have a midlife crisis. I get that. So why is my husband going off and having a midlife disaster? Please turn his heart away from telling knock-knock jokes. And whatever you do, don't let him make a fool of himself and me on the entire internet. Unless it's the only way he'll finally come to realize that he's just not that funny. And everyone listening to this podcast said, amen. Now, please don't condemn my wife there. 30 years of puns will do that to a spouse. But, in all seriousness, you may be thinking, Dave, what are you trying to do? You going to quit your job and become a stand-up comedian? Maybe that's what your wife is worried about. And to that, I say, no. I am never going to become a stand-up comedian. You know why? Because it's one of the dumbest job descriptions I've ever heard. Have you ever met anybody who said, hey, my name is Bubba and I'm a sit-down trucker? No, that's stupid. So no, I'm not going to become a stand-up comedian. I don't even consider myself to be a comedian. What I am is a humorist, meaning I'm a comedian attempting to lower your expectations. Also meaning that I am able to see humor in a lot of situations where most people cannot. And I tend to flesh it out. Unfortunately, one of the situations in which I've been having to find a whole lot more humor lately is in aging. Finding humor in getting old is starting to get old. I've been able to find so much of it. I remember the very first time that my body showed signs of getting older. I was staring in the mirror and trying to clean out the old facial tunnels. I'm sorry. I've come to realize that comedy is a whole lot like algebra sometimes. I bet you didn't think you'd hear that sentence today or at any point in your life. But yes, those students who are brilliant in math and they didn't need the teacher to say a word. They just got it. In fact, they could have taught the class. They could have taught the teacher. They were so great at math. These are the same people that took a little bit extra, well, let me put it this way. These are the same people who, before being born, actually took a moment to work out a word problem, to figure out the perfect angle at which to exit that subterranean cavern that we call the womb. Others of you, when it comes to math, not so much. And so when I said clean out the old facial tunnels, some of you immediately knew what I was talking about. Others of you were kind of like, let X equal, yeah, I'm stuck. My nose, I was trying to clean out my nose. And there was this one spot that I just couldn't get. And so it was driving me crazy. I started staring and looking closer and closer. And finally I realized I had a white hair in my nose. No one ever told me about that. Do you know how hard it is to get nose hair gel? Well, if it's not that hard, please let me know because I'd like to get some. But yes, I was never warned about the old white nose hair thingy. Here's something else I was never warned about. The graph. The graph. So here we have time represented in years. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, plenty of years. For those of you listening to the podcast, I'm showing the boundaries of a normal histograph or line graph, that kind of thing, to give you a graphic illustration. On the side, going vertically here, we have minutes, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And whomever you are, write this line, put this line about wherever you want to, maybe at the 10 or 12 minute mark, and we'll kind of squiggle it all throughout the years because this line stays relatively even. And what it represents is the amount of time it takes to go to the bathroom. Specifically, to do number 2. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's losing weight the easy way. Now, that stays relatively the same throughout one's age. What they didn't tell me about was this line. Oh, it starts at maybe 10, 15, and then goes on up and up and up. And I know what some of you are thinking. This line that starts so low and goes so high, that's the amount of fiber one must consume in order to keep the amount of time it takes to do number 2 relatively the same as one ages. And while there may be some truth to that, no! This is the amount of time it takes just to go do number 1, just to pee. When you're young, it's like 10 to 15 seconds. It's like a firefighter turning a fire hose on and off. On, whoosh, off, done. But as I'm getting older, it's much more like what we do to faucets to keep the pipes from bursting in the winter. Drip, drip, drip. And so while that's incredibly frustrating, what's even more frustrating, going to the bathroom, forget standing up. Because if urinals are the highway of the men's bathroom, once you've gotten past 3 times on either side, it's time to head to the back roads. So yes, they did not warn me about the graph. When my parents were younger, I'd hear them talking about my crowning achievement in life. Well, now that I'm north of 50, I know what my crowning achievement is. My crowning achievement in life is my teeth. My teeth have more crowns than the Disney Princess Party. I remember the last time I went to the dentist to get a crown. Oh, like it was just 15 months ago. Got into the dental seat, walks in the assistant. And I must say that this was quite the educational experience. Very much so. Because, for one is, in the medical world, whether we're talking about doctors or dentists, the phrase, it's going to be okay, any phrase like this, it's going to be okay, you're not going to feel a thing. They're talking about their own bodies, not yours. They're just trying to remind themselves that they're going to be fine. It's you, the poor sucker, a patient who's in big trouble. I also learned, thanks to the dental assistant here, that the phrase "you might feel something" in the world of dentistry is a medical euphemism for sharp stabbing sensation upon which I will push as hard as I can in order to maximize your pain. Which is exactly what she did. She got her little needle, filled it full of Novocaine, and then proceeded to induce a lot of pain before numbing my mouth. So the medicine takes its course, it runs its place. I'm all numbed up. Here comes the dentist. Walks in, sits down. She's on my right side, assistant on my left, grabs the drill, sharp little pointy drill, and proceeds to go at my teeth like an oil tycoon searching for the next mother lode. I mean, she's just absolutely convinced if she just drills enough, deep enough, in the right spot, boom, she's going to strike it rich. Meanwhile, her assistant has the little, the dental water hose in her hand and starts spraying in my mouth and keeps spraying in my mouth. And as this is happening, and I'm not the first comedian to observe this, I started to smell smoke. And this feeling of deja vu came over me. Smoke. Lots of water being sprayed. Smoke. Lots of water being sprayed. I've seen this somewhere before. And then it dawned on me. Holy mouth smoke! This is what firefighters do! They're trying to keep my mouth from bursting into flames! And as disconcerting as that was, what was becoming more disconcerting was all this water in my mouth. Because I don't know if you've tried to breathe through your mouth when it's underneath Lake Inferior, but it's incredibly difficult to do. In fact, it's not advisable. So fortunately, God gave us a backup plan. Our noses. It's just that there was so much going on at the time that for a moment there, I literally could not remember where my nose was. And then when I did remember where it was still, in theory, what I realized then is that I couldn't feel it. Captain Novocaine had so filled my mouth with whatever it was, I couldn't even feel my nose. I don't know if you ever tried to breathe through a nose that you couldn't even feel. But it's not that easy to get activated, shall we say. Start doing. Make the transition. But fortunately, considering the fact that I was almost about to drown, my body found a way. And I was able to breathe through my nose. So the dentist and her assistant, they go on and on and on and on and finally wrap things up. The dentist is giving final instructions to the assistant, starts talking about the next appointment and yada, 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 and finally says, and let's get him the mouthwash, the prescription kind. Hurtful? I found that to be rather offensive. I mean, how could she even smell what my mouth breath was like underneath all that water? So, yeah. Between that and everything else that they had done that day, I was rather miffed. I was getting angry, upset. How dare they insult me that way? But then I started to console myself, thinking, well, okay, look, David, she's been at this for years, probably decades. They know what they're doing. It's going to be okay. So I check out. They hand me the prescription mouthwash. I grab it, and the person behind the desk starts giving instructions to me about how often I can use it and all this stuff. And she ends by saying, but don't use it too much. Really? Why? It's bad for your teeth. Thanks. So yes, you can rest assured they know what they're doing. And now a word from today's sponsor. Has there been a little too much sag in your God-given seat lately? A little bit too much cush in your tush? Then try Buttocks, the world's only Botox injection for one's derriere. Buttocks. Yes, you could put off getting this done, but time is running out. Thank you for listening.